This is my Custom Wooting 60HE, but I do think it's time for a facelift. We do have the new LMA60, a polycarb plate, a detachable cable, the most exciting being the new Lekker L45 V2s, a set of burgundy rune keycaps, and lastly my Wooting 60HE. But before we do get into all of that, I do want to thank the Wooting team for sending out all these goodies. I felt it was time for me to just update my setup as a whole in terms of the color scheme, and I've always wanted a concrete and burgundy build, which fell perfectly in line with what they were providing. It is just meant to be. Now for me personally, the case does provide a more comfortable experience out of the box. But for some of those who want a taller typing experience, way earlier in the video, I did showcase that you can get the taller standoffs included in the box. Now coincidentally, during the time of my request, they were preparing the launch of the Lekker V2s. But to compare the Lekker V2s versus the V1s, there is a good chunk of difference. They have a more solid and smoother feel out the box with a better housing tolerance and bottom out stability. But they're still not the best. Now some of you out there are definitely deeper into the Hall effect keyboard switches, but just to give an idea to the general consumers, the fan favorite right now is the Gateron Jades, and I'm also one of those fans. But these aren't the only reason why my build does sound and feel better than what it did previously. Now the old case that I was using is the original Tofu 60. It wasn't necessarily made for the Wooting 60HE, but it does fit the PCB. It does have quite a bit of space inside, kind of leading to all the sound bouncing around. Now considering the LMAs was obviously made for the Wooting 60HE, I did go even further on top of that to add some extra mods to make it sound and feel even better. Now the base of my LMA's case doesn't have normal foam, but rather sound deadening foam that they use for vehicles, most commonly known as butyl. This stuff is insane for sound absorption. Now under the PCB I didn't use a normal tape mod, but rather this sheet of silicone tape from the brand Keycaps. Now the tape does adhere to the PCB with a reusable adhesive layer. I've even been told that you are able to rinse it off if it does get mucky and use it on another build if you like to. This also absorbs the reverb and sound through the PCB. It's not a significant change, but for me it does help a bit. We then have a polycarbonate plate which is super flexible, giving it a lower pitch sound, and to some it may sound cheap, but it fits pretty well into my build. The stock aluminium plate is the better all-rounder, but it does make for a sound and feel that I'm not usually the biggest fan of, but there are some exceptions. Then we have a choice of a piece of foam or silicone between the plate and PCB to take care of any extra pinginess in the typing experience, of which I did choose the silicone. Now the stabilizers I do have are pretty meh. The older Wootings came with plate mounted ones. They are a bit more rattly and less secure than screw-ins, which do come with the newer Wooting 60HE Plus and the Wooting 80HE. Regardless, it's what I'm working with and I'm not complaining too much. Now lastly, for the cherry on top, we do have the burgundy rune keycaps, which I did by myself. I feel like they made a great contrast which just tied the whole build together, and I'm super happy with how it turned out. Now the spacebar is a bit clacky and pingy, so I ended up adding in butyl in the spacebar itself and it helped a little bit. So this is of course my final build. It's something that I'm very happy with, but I do feel I can make it even better. Now the Wooting 60HE is one of the best performing keyboards out there. It is something that I've kept revisiting if I want that extra bit of performance over anything else in my collection. But I also want to make the typing experience and the sound even better. So I will likely be swapping out the switches for the Jades or the new Raw HEs, and also swapping out the plate for the POM just to have a more fuller body experience. But that's all for today guys. Thank you so much for watching, take care and